What is this game? It is lesser in every...
Oh God, is that the in-game footage? Oh my God. Is that what it actually looks like? No. No. Wait, it looks way better in the trailers and stuff. Wait, this looks like garbage. Ubisoft's $70 game just released and the reviews are awful. I think this is from Skull and Bones. I'm very interested in playing Skull and Bones because I'm a boat guy, right? In BDO, I love the boat stuff. I'm super into the boat content. I also Sea of Thieves is in like my top 5 favorite games of all time. So I'm curious how this game did.
Everyone, today it's going to be really fun. We've got a quadruple A game to talk about with Skull and...
Oh yeah, we're calling games now that are over $60 quadruple A. I can't wait till we get to pentuple A and quintuple
Bones. And this is a
octuple A game
that's more than just that. It's one of the industry, yes.
Honestly though, if it's $70 and there's no like microtransactions in game, sure, totally fine with that. If it's $70 and you have microtransaction, get the f out of here, you money grabbing bitch.
And it is absolutely typical of so many of the problems our industry has faced, especially with big live service games. But it's also a story of something else. It is a story of government intervention with Singapore. And that's actually very, very impactful, you're going to see as we progress through this story. So, obviously, the game is out. It had its open beta, it had early access, where of course you could spend more money in order to play the...
Yeah, I'm not going to spend $100 for early access for a game that isn't even out. I've learned my lesson on stuff like that.
Amazing game early, but now it's out. The critic reviews are there, and we're seeing a 6.
Ooh. Ooh, God. I'll be honest, though. 7 out of 10 is not a bad game. 68 out of 100, that's not a bad game. 4 out of 10, okay, that's pretty rough. 6.5, solid. You know what I mean? Like, I don't mind that. As long as it's over, like, a 5.
61 top critic average and a 15% critic recommendation.
IGN is bad takes. Yeah, I mean, like, it's a little scary that IGN is basically taken over like the review market, but like it's they're good at it at least.
And certainly there are some outlets that are giving this just like a 7, whatever. They're like, you know, it's not the most offensive thing in the universe. It's not amazing, whatever. If you want to just do some...
Combining moody and gratifying ship-to-ship combat with shallow live service trapping, Skull and Bones is great within the claustrophobic parameters of the market it allows us to be. That guy is a great reviewer because I don't understand a word of what the f he just said. Just give it to me straight, bro. Is it good or is it bad? Skull and Bones is a maritime RPG with strong foundation, even if it feels like a live service first draft.
Pirates, you can go do some pirates. A lot of other outlets, though, we're seeing 4 out of 10. Basically, this game is the worst. How have they managed to actually regress and get worse?
My concern with Skull and Bones was that it was going to be knockoff Sea of Thieves. That's my concern with the game.
Worse in almost every
like Sea of Thieves at home.
way. That's absolutely something that speaks to a baffling development process. Still, a lot of the points stand. In terms of what OpenCritic has been able to capture, only 2 out of 15 reviewers have actually recommended that people try the game. And going to Sherry Faulkner's review for PC Games N, which was a lovely 4 out of 10, well, I just think this is great.
Damn, this is so depressing. Because like there were so many people that came into my Discord that were hanging out like, I love Skull and Bones, Blue, it's so good, you gotta play it.
Crafting weapons is tedious thanks to the loading screen that
I'll probably still play it.
Appears every time you use the craft feature. Wow. I mean, how many times have access...
But I'm not spending $100 for early access, and then $70 on the game. You're nuts, dude.
Loading screens pretty much damaged the flow of a game. Obviously, I think you know what game I'm thinking of there. This is one of the many recurring loading screens.
All they had to do was take the ship content out of Assassin's Creed Black Flag, and it would have been lit. Pretty based. There were some problems with the ship stuff in Black Flag, but like, God, that game was so good. Not because of anything but the ship stuff. Make it multiplayer. Black Flag multiplayer. Okay.
That collectively hurt the game's pacing.
That's basically Sea of Thieves on a dumbed down level. Sea of Thieves just doesn't have... I love Sea of Thieves. Like I said, it's my top 5 favorite games of all time. It really hits that fantasy of sailing the open ocean and like people are all your enemies and stuff. They have PvE servers and stuff now. But like you're like an actual pirate getting like loot and stuff, or you could be a barterer and do like quests and stuff and go get these chests that everyone can see you moving around, and then you gotta outsail people. Like that fantasy, it really captures that. When you get into the nitty-gritty combat of Sea of Thieves, I really did feel like it came up lacking. You know, your left mouse button, right? You could do like the little sword charge thing, but like aside from that, there wasn't very nuanced to it, and I wish there was more.
You'll suffer from them when you get off your ship, interact with an NPC, or dig up some treasure. Coupled with the fact you can only disembark at specific zones and have to be on land to fast travel, Skull and Bones starts to feel less and less like an open world game.
Oh boy, you gotta be... Hold up. There's load screens for crafting weapons? So I'm confused. Did Skull and Bones release, or was it just the beta? I thought it released. I thought it's like out. You'll suffer them whenever you get off your ship, interact with an NPC, or dig up some treasure. Ah, I see. Okay.
It's like an open world
it's released
game.
Now, okay.
The idea of you essentially just having to
It's
load...
a paid beta? It's okay, so I'm getting mixed reviews. Skull and Bones, the highly anticipated pirate game, is set for official release February 16th. So it's out.
Into all of these different instances of an area that just completely destroys the vision of the game being open world. So that's brutal, and it's especially brutal in a time where quick loading screens are actually becoming very, very normal, to the point where...
Bro, if BDO can do a load screen that is like instant, okay, as like a 7-year-old or like 9-10-year-old game, get out of here.
Well, consumers are just going to expect them. Now, for a more positive review, PC Gamer gave it a 68. I say more positive, but it's only 68. That's not particularly high. But anyway, the point is...
I will say, for what it's worth, like, I look at critics' reviews and stuff, and I take it with a grain of salt. You know, like, Patch Adams got like a 30 or a 20% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, right? Like there's the sort of thing about critics that are just like, yeah, whatever. Do you enjoy the game? You know what I mean? So like, I'd like to hear what they said was so bad about it.
This is some details on crafting. The live service rhythm...
It's like, I'm a much less harsher judge than the critics.
...defines Skull and Bones even before it hits its endgame. It's basically impossible to just buy enough ammo with silver except in small quantities at outposts.
Oh,
no. To get enough to feel well equipped, I must craft en masse, which requires a grind for materials. Granted, I didn't start to run out of ammo regularly until late in the game, and small portions can be looted. Small mercy for the cash rich. If you want to just fast travel everywhere and unlock stuff quicker, in-game currency is available.
I'm sure it is.
For real world cash.
There it is. Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, of course it is. Like, I knew it was gonna be pay to win. Like, it is what it is. But like, how much pay to win? Where's the line? You know what I mean? Like, if this is the graph, right? As long as it's above the line, in terms of dollars spent, like if you make like $1, well, I guess this would be dollars spent here versus like power gained. You know what I mean? If it's below this line and you're spending tons of dollars and getting not enough power, that's totally fine. If you're spending small amounts of dollars and getting massive amounts of power spike, then it's a problem. There's like a line of tolerance for pay-to-win games that we're willing to tolerate, and as long as it's like in that threshold, I don't really care.
So that's absolutely lovely. And then diving to another one, I thoroughly enjoyed Skill Up's video. It was fantastic. And as he pointed out, well,
I need
they
to watch
have
that
actually
video then.
spent, right, a decade making a game that in every way is worse than the game that inspired it. You see, the
Don't say Sea of Thieves. Don't say...
way that this all happened is Ubisoft Singapore did some like sort of...
Oh, thank God. Yeah, well, I mean, is it worse than Assassin's Creed, though?
wave and ship tech. We saw an early version of that in Assassin's Creed 3, right? But then you move from Assassin's Creed 3 into Black Flag, and Black Flag was honestly a stupendously strong experience, a very...
Yeah, it's such a good... Oh, God, dude. You're just not going to get a better raid of ship feeling, you know?
very good game indeed. And, well, the pirate stuff in that game is significantly better than in this game. Of course, there's probably...
Yeah, I think that Sea of Thieves really hits it, except for the combat. Part of what made Assassin's Creed Black Flag so good is because the combat was like so engaging and fun. You know what I mean? Sea of Thieves, you just left mouse buttoning, but everything else, the atmosphere, sailing on the boat, like trying to like engage yourself and like sail correctly and understand how the wind hits the sail and stuff, that was all amazing.
More longevity, right?
And firing the cannons felt super rewarding.
But is that longevity in a way that is fun, that feels good? No, it is.
The music in Sea of Thieves is pretty good.
The usual grindy business that has to exist
music in Sea
for
of
the
Thieves is
format
really,
of
really
game
good.
with a business model like this that it is. So the point basically is it's almost all contextually bad. You've got actual gameplay that basically is perfectly acceptable, you know, arcadey sort of piratey game.
Okay.
But the overall experience, though, it is a product. That's the bit that's a problem. Of course, this is a concept that I think is extremely important for us to think about as we actually discuss games. We continually have this issue of seeing really good games or really good bits, but they're ruined because of the overall experience, be that sort of larger macro design, or be that it's you know, it's monetization, it's progression, that kind of thing.
I don't mind that it's grindy. I'm going to be 100% honest. The fact that it's grindy is almost a positive feature. It means I can sink my teeth in, but we'll see.
And that, I think, is one of the things that actually sets players against developers, because the thought here is, developer, why have you done this? Why have you made this game for us? It is worse in all of these ways. Right? You as a consumer feel somewhat betrayed. You think back to, say, playing Assassin's Creed Black Flag, thinking, wow, I paid a normal amount of money.
Wasn't Black Flag like $60?
I got Black Flag. It was brilliant.
No extra. You just got the game. You spent like 60. I think I spent like $60 on it. You own the game. That's it. You're done. You don't need to worry about it anymore.
Game, fantastic. Everyone's happy. And now, of course, you look at a similar situation. You're like, okay, great.
$70 and then having pay-to-win mechanics in the game on top of it is a money grab. You're killing me right now.
This is barely even a shade of a part of that game. It's more expensive.
True,
it's
the
more
crank
deeply
violet.
monetized. Developer, why have you done this? And that's the bit that's
sea
unfortunate,
shanties,
because
bro.
the actual game developers working in this game have done plenty good stuff. As SkillUp is saying, it's not like the arcadey pirate stuff is particularly terrible. It is management. It is business.
This is before the microtransactions started becoming normalized. Well, it's not that. It's that, I don't know, like I think that like having microtransactions in a game that aren't pay to win are totally fine. Outside of like, if your game is $60 and then you have cosmetic stuff that you want to buy in the game, okay, I think that's an L take. I think that's just not a good business model. I think you should give the game to people for free, and then your game should be good enough that I want to spend money on the cosmetics. Because, like, I'll be honest with you, when you give me your game for free or for a low amount of money, I'm more prompted to be like, damn, I want to give these people money because this game is amazing. But, like, having people spend $70 just to get through the door before they've even tried your game, and then to have a pay-to-win, it's not cosmetic, to have pay-to-win features in a $70 game is wild to me.
It is planning that has let this sort of thing down, and the people who lose out from that are us as consumers and developers who are throwing years of their career.
Was it Lost Ark like 40 or $50 too? Like, that's, I mean, it was a big turnoff for me there too.
Into making well-polished bits of a machine that overall just doesn't work that well. That's kind of the issue. So if you played Black Flag and thought, wow, this is offering me a complete fantasy. I can be a swashbuckling pirate on islands, on my ship, boarding other ships. What is this game? It is lesser in every...
Oh god, is that the in-game footage? Oh my god. Is that what it actually looks like? No. No. Wait, it looks way better in the trailers and stuff. Wait, this looks like garbage. Wait, what the? Wait, you don't even get out to like saw the tree down yourself?
Every single way.
What?
What is this game?
You're playing the mini game from the ship. Like,
it
what?
It is lesser in every single way. That means we cannot blame people who think that the industry is going into a form of systemic decline, because that is how these games
It's like a Global Labs glitch. I have better life skilling, like mechanic and like graphics in BDO.
What is this?
Which is like a 10-year-old game. BDO has better graphics and the life skilling looks cooler, right? Because you go up and interact with the tree itself. You're telling me that this is exact... What is that? Is it just a bug? Like,
It is less
oh no, those are waving flags. Okay.
in every single
Oh
way.
my god, it looks so bad.
That means we cannot blame people who think that the industry is going into a form of systemic
That was the gameplay? Bro, I was so hyped. The trailer made it look so good.
decline, because that is how these games
How often do you get main weapon exchange coupons? You usually get them once every 3 to 6 months.
make them feel. Okay, so we're going
We
to
got
talk
one
about
about
how
two
Skull and Bones
and a half
actually
months ago,
happened.
3
This
months
is
ago.
a tale of management. It is a tale of government. And the government thing's actually very
$70.
interesting to me. As an example, here in Northern Ireland, NI Screen, a sort of local screen development agency, does quite a lot of funding for the games industry. I have indeed received plenty of funds. You'll actually see them in the credits for our first game, The Pale Beyond, that we released. So it's the sort of thing that
Good for him. I love him.
I'm fairly used to. I think that means I can at least give you guys a bit of a sort of a bit of a perspective that's actually got some experience in this, because I've absolutely seen the pros of this, and you know, there is
I'm not going to write off the whole game because I saw a 3-second clip, but that did not look good.
I think a very real debt of gratitude that we would owe to the people who we worked with at NI Screen, who did help get us up off the
It's definitely lower than a 6.
ground. But there is a flip side to that, and there are struggles. But before we get into that, well, the vast majority of people who watch this channel are in fact not subscribed to the channel, and I get it. That's kind of how I do a lot of YouTube. You know, you pull the home screen and bam, oh, that looks interesting, you click on it. The thing is, though, the way the YouTube algorithm works, it likes happy signals. That's sort of what I call it. So whenever you subscribe to a channel on a video and then you watch the video, that's YouTube basically thinking, oh, look at this data.
Yeah. And then especially if you go back, you'll notice that, like, what you watch one of the videos and then you watch another one of their videos, and then your entire YouTube feed is just their videos, and you love it. And you love it. Okay? Say what you want about the YouTube algorithm. Shit is juiced.
People are liking this, we'll spread it to more people. So
Yeah,
by liking...
I like Bellular because he gives me, like, straight facts and good news. It doesn't... Obviously, there's always going to be bias when you come to the news. He just gives it to me straight, man.
Our videos, and by subscribing to the channel, it is a way of zero cost, other than perhaps 5 seconds, where you can help us on our mission, help us do what basically we are here to do. That is why, you know, there is, you know, research team behind all of this. It's not just me winging it. Like, we really do care about doing this sort of thing right.
It feels like they do the investigative journalism that I don't want to do because I'm too lazy.
And you know, I want to do more of that, so it is appreciated. It does help. With that said, let's talk about how Skull and Bones even became a thing. So you have
you can also pay the $18 Ubisoft Plus subscription to play the game. Of course you can. If you don't want to spend $70, and the subscription comes with a premium edition. Oh, I'm so sorry. I refuse to buy the subscription stuff. Like, I hate subscription models for, like, oh, it's on Xbox Game Pass. Oh, good. Can I just own the game? I would so much rather just spend $70 outright and own the game forever than have to spend, like, the dollars per month, you know, $18 a month or 10, even $5 a month.
Thinking about Ubisoft, right? You've got X Defiant taking on Call of Duty. You've got Rainbow Six Siege taking on Counter-Strike. You've got Hyperscape to Apex Legends, and Skull and Bones attempting to be, I don't know, World of War.
You don't own it forever anyways? Really? Because if I open up Elden Ring right now, I still own it. If I boot up my GameCube and I boot up Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, I own that.
Warships or Sea
It is so expensive, J-Crow. It's ridiculous.
Thieves or something like that. The point basically is, when you look through a lot of Ubisoft's portfolio, you can see...
The fact of the matter is, I don't mind $70 for the game. I don't care. I don't even mind if it's $80. $100 would be pushing it, but, like, even then... But I gotta own the game permanently, and there better not be some crazy... I spent $100 and then in-game I gotta spend another $400 to stay competitive. Like, that, dude.
See, they were just trying to do a big entry in this thing. You know, they had their different flavors of loot shooter. They were going for multiple
better be a good game
battle
too,
royale projects. They really, I suppose, were trying to have this thing where across their IP, somebody could have a full gaming experience. Every modern in vogue genre within...
So do I. I'm not even joking. It's in my Steam library.
The Ubisoft library. That plan, of course, is not one that's went particularly well for them. Let's get into things now.
I bet I can find it. Hold on. I go to my library. There it is. I'm an OG, man. I've been playing forever.
Now, this is thanks to Matt at IGN and some of his interviews with key team members on Skull and Bones. So because of that work, we've got a fairly good idea of what's been going on. So
Okay,
in
good.
2017, this game was showed off at E3. Do you remember that, right?
Yeah,
It was
look how cool that look. Look at that. Although I don't trailer, I get it. The game is gonna look worse than the trailer, but the trailer hyped me up really hard. It was good.
Oh man, Skull and Bones, cool. I'm
Yeah.
really glad they're doing
Yeah,
something.
I don't expect the game to look like this, but this looks like a
With
great.
this whole Assassin's Creed Black Flag thing.
Like, okay, so I can like blast the shit out of him with my
You like
cannons
that?
and shit. Like, okay.
Yeah, well, years past 2017, of course. That's roughly when Suicide Squad was getting itself going. So, yeah, real fun time for the industry. Lots of great trends back then. So, cinematic trailer, gameplay, multiplayer, combat, a big shared open world. Interestingly, even in 2017, there was no boarding action. It was just a cutscene where, you know, you get close. Now, at launch, this has been reworked to being a grappling hook weapon that you've got to hit with, and
good.
then there is a...
So there is, okay, so there's a grappling hook. You can board other people's
Cutscene.
ships. Okay.
Unfortunate, certainly a key part of the piracy fantasy that doesn't exist here, and that's something that fundamentally changes what this is. If you look at a game like Sea of Thieves, it is a quite lovely combat sandbox. I'm sure you've seen the hijinks people have pulled, you know, smuggling their way onto someone else's ship, doing all sorts
Boarding is a cutscene? No shot.
of crazy things. The sort of thing that leads to what I would almost call a Battlefield moment. I mean, do you remember the Battlefield
You feel like you're a part of a world and you're getting organic interactions with other players. Yeah.
3 marketing?
If you put a load screen in there, it's a joke.
People jumping out of a jet, pulling out an RPG or a sniper rifle, killing the person who is in their kill box, and then getting in their jet or something. All that amazing stuff. And that's amazing stuff that only really happens because of the possibility space of the game's design. So whenever you clamp them down to the point where all that a ship is basically a hitbox with HP that goes to 0.
Butterfly. Yeah, all the people in SEA hate each other, so yeah, it's pretty solid.
And you can go close and perform a boarding action, which basically just means hit the loot button to get some loot. Well, what you've done there is you've kind of just... Well, you've reduced the possibility space. You've reduced the amount of player interaction in the game world. And that completely changes, I think, what the game is.
You just click board and then you get loot?
The thing with Black Flag, nobody is saying that the combat design of that era of Assassin's Creed was a particularly amazing thing. Now, certainly, there's a debate to be had. I know some people prefer the newer games. Some people prefer the older games. Point being...
So there's no actual combat between players. You don't actually fight them. You just click board, go through the cutscene, open the loot, and you're good.
Though, it was never the best in the world. The bit that mattered, though, is that through that fairly mediocre, albeit, you know, flashy in terms of animations combat, but through that mediocre combat, a larger-than-life and appealing fantasy could be lived out. And that's what helped to make...
Okay, well, the game is dead then.
Black Flag feel like a full and cohesive experience that was more than the sum of its parts, and by taking away those nice-to-haves, by sanding them down, streamlining them out, what you end up having is...
PvP is highly unincentivized for a pirate game? I find that a stretch.
Is, yes, pirate ships, but not the fantasy of being on one. That's a pretty major loss for a game like this. Now, as we move on from 2017 to 2018, we essentially see a raid.
To be fair, there is a correlation between how many A's there are in the game. Okay, so it's a quadruple A title, right? And how garbage the game is. So, well, how good the game is the problem is that what they don't tell you is it's an inverse relationship. Right? If you get too many A's, the game just actually goes downhill, and you actually just don't want to play it. It's not a positive relationship. It's inverse.
Style boss encounter, which is fairly something, I suppose. What a HMS Victory transports back in time and over to where you are, then you fight it. I don't know, but from that point, it vanishes. It vanishes, and then for a while, we're all just saying, where is Skull and Bones? Ubisoft, in their earnings reports, would keep on saying, oh, and we're doing, you know, it's progressing, and this is where Matt's purse those in.
Crimson Desert's gonna be better, guys. It's completely different. It's totally different.
Interview with the creative director Elizabeth Pellin is quite interesting. So she was recalling her appointment at 2018 and basically highlighting the issues the game's faced.
Congrats on Pistanity, 2 weeks in a row, big dog. You're gaming.
Prototypes, demos. Despite having initially planned for a 2018 release, Skull and Bones was still in the prototyping phase by the end of the year. And while the open world had been showcased at E3 that summer, internally, Skull and Bones was still a small-scale multiplayer game. That's rough. Now, what are other examples of big live services where you've sort of seen prototypes and demos, but nothing cohesive? Anthem. Because continually, talented game developers are doing a really good job making parts, but the problem
Anthem also looked good until it released.
is planning, leadership,
We
realistic
took the gift wrapping off, and then it was just a heaping pile of shit.
timelines, the sorts of things you need to actually pull those things together into a cohesive vision. So, in order to try and do that, they basically did a far more narrow focus of the game. They cancelled the competitive mode and an unseen third mode, and then they doubled down on the open world experience. And it was during that time that Kotaku did some investigative reporting. Basically, they were detailing a very chaotic development process, an entanglement between the creation of the game and benefits provided via contracts with the Singaporean government, and those mandated a release of original IPs. Now, that is something that's fairly interesting.
Give it to me in English.
Before I go into Singapore, I just want to continue because as a part of this development process, right, the game was being reworked into its current state, but it was never allowed to be
I want to be a peaceful pirate. We call that a trader, bro.
fully prototyped
You're stealing money. You're just stealing from like people on land.
and started, sort of started fresh, actually doing a proper reset, accepting the new vision, and then making that vision. No, it was always just trying to move this giant behemoth in a direction. So this was a big challenge, and one of the claims here is that the team could not be ran.
We had BDO content stuff earlier. Right now we're looking at this. 'Cause I wanted to see what happened with Skull and Bones.
From its 500-ish person strength. Now, this is one of those things, maybe we just need to go through the credits or something like that, but this is where the Singapore stuff is sort of involved. So, a lot of people, the more, I suppose, traditional sort of low interactions with the state would say that, well, no, the market is the thing that should really be involved.
It's the Caribbean wannabe.
Involved here, and if it doesn't make sense to, if it doesn't make sense, sort of market-wise, to make the game in Singapore, and
Thanks,
if this is a project that's obviously doomed, well, you know what? Then you should just kill the thing and move on. There's a lot of people who would say that I suppose the state intervention is, not the most ideal way of doing things, right?
True.
Of course, I'm not making a value judgment on that, but I'm certainly saying that a lot of the fears that some people would have, I think, were rather realized in this instance. Of course, Singapore is a really fascinating country, and especially from a governmental perspective, I'd recommend you sort of look that up. They've had a lot of remarkably successful initiatives, and certainly sort of bargaining with the people. It's like, hey, look, you want a car? Well, this is what is involved in getting a car. For most people, it
oh my god,
ends up being being a good thing. I suppose I'd bring this up just to say that that is a state that is willing to take a shot and try to sort of intervene in something. So often what you get is tax relief incentives. As an example, we have video games tax relief in the UK, where you can get 20-something%, and of course we've got that. That's it is a tax break to our industry.
I deal with chatters that are nice but annoying. Make fun of them. It's really easy. They shut up.
Something that is very much the government trying to encourage people to do video games here, and certainly while there are a lot of big stories about Rockstar Games using that for companies of around my size, let's just say we spend 200 grand on a project, well, being able to if you get sort of 23% of that back, that actually is helping you fund that period where you're not getting money from the game you just released, but you need to keep the lights on. So for that, it can be quite...
I understand that they need to make money. They don't need to make this much money.
Vital. So you got very...
All right. They're going to try to make as much money as they feel like the consumer will spend.
Large, broad strokes things like the video games tax relief scheme in the UK, and of course in many other countries as well. Then you can have sort of more direct things.
I'm just not going to spend it. $70 for a game that, like, when I saw it, oh my god.
So as an example, here in Northern Ireland, there's an agency called NI Screen, and yeah, with NI Screen, you know, they're trying to grow the screen industry here. Interactive is a part of that. So if you have an idea for a pitch, you could be able to get a development grant from them. Well, okay, it's not a grant; it is the form of a of a loan. So you get that money, and if you go to zero, well, poof, it goes to zero for them. If you end up making money, then you will be paying it back to them. So it's one of those things to inject a bit of cash into the earlier stage of the whole thing.
Investing,
to sort of try to foster the industry.
I like the art style. This game looks really good.
Sprinkle some miracle grow all over it. And for many companies, that's been really great. I mean, Pale Beyond, we were only able to do the thing that got us the publishing deal on the back of sort of that money. Now, the downside of a situation like that is you can just become a serial funding chaser. And I'm sure in your own industries, you'll see this where, be it a government fund or something.
That's life, bro. What do you think it's like in the science field? Do you think that people write research papers because, like, they're interested in science? No, dude. They write research paper because the people that fund them want them to write research papers. Yeah, you're interested in science, but the problem is most of the time you don't even get to research or do the shit that you want to do. You're going to do the shit that the people with the money want you to do. All research is, when you get your PhD, you're writing for grants every day. That's what you're doing. You get your PhD in science, you're writing grants because you can't do anything because you have no money. You're in the science field, right? You got $0. You're writing grants to people that actually have money so that they can pay you so that you can do what you want to do at a minimal cost. The trick is to get them to fund something that you actually want to research.
It's possible to just support the cash flow of your business by just churning out things that are never actually going to turn into a real game, but you can get a prototype fund for it. So that's the smaller scale. You can then get to that larger scale of, I suppose, government or like state intervention. The idea here is that as a game developer, you are providing jobs. And in a lot of these countries or cities, what do they want? Well, they want to attract people who have got really good skills. Because if you have a large development studio, maybe you've got a few universities in your city, some of those universities maybe have a games program, you can see that beginning to foster a scene, and a lot of these places will say, hey, we want to attract people over to our country by actually giving them a good deal because we think it's worthwhile in the long run. Now, one big example of that would be with Curt Schilling. So Curt Schilling is a baseball, well, he was a baseball player, but he liked video games and he ended up founding 38 studios. Now, this is what led to Kingdoms of Amalur. Now, essentially, Rhode Island pumped so much money into that project. And of course, the whole thing goes kaput. Pumped.
How Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning nearly bankrupted an entire state. Rhode Island gave Curt Schilling $75 million to make a game. Bro, I need to just go into the gaming industry. Guys, I'm going to make this great game. You know what I mean? Like, hold up. A great game.
Feels quite fascinating in terms of it having to be some unique IP, original IP, which I suppose you could maybe see why they would want that. Perhaps the government would see that more as like setting down proper new creative routes in the area. But anyway, it's that, and the
game was poorly marketed. It's a decent RPG for its time. Not from my understanding of it so far. I want to see more gameplay.
Release was essentially mandated.
But like,
now that's
the graphics are subpar. The combat is just non-existent. The boarding, the load screens are all over the place. You don't have a crazy amount of, like, that's not good RPG, right? Like a role-playing game makes you feel like it gives you a sense of immersion. From what I'm gathering, it doesn't sound crazy immersed. You've got load screens everywhere, and like the graphics just aren't good enough that, and there's not enough combat. It's de-incentivized, so like there's just no reason to really get invested.
It's a bit that I do find to be quite interesting. They're mandating this release. So what happens then if Skull and Bones just makes no sense and is going to be cancelled? Well, we don't know what the terms of that deal are. Maybe there are things that Ubisoft, as a part of a sort of termination clause or something like that, that they would have to pay back. So Ubisoft essentially ends up with this project. It's going nowhere fast. It's a total goddamn disaster. However, it is disproportionately cheap for them to develop based on local state incentives. But those incentives also mandate that the game comes out. So that basically means that
So they release garbage. That's what that ultimately means.
this ongoing disaster is never so existential to Ubisoft that they have to
You
kill
just make an incredible gameplay trailer, guys. Let people live on that hype for like 3 years and release minimal gameplay footage that is like scripted, and then you release the game and force everyone to pay a bunch of money up front and then just walk away with the bag.
it.
That's what I'm learning.
But equally, if they do
The day
kill it,
before.
you know, if it got to the stage where they would normally kill it, well, maybe they're going to be on the hook for a whole bunch more money because, you know, they're pulling out of that deal. I don't exactly know, but that essentially is the point here. An example of where the deal ends up being so good-ish in a way that they can just let this disaster keep on going for years and years and years and years, because I guess Singapore's getting its jobs, development is happening, and continuing that status quo ends up just being the default thing. I cannot wait to get more sort of interviews on this, more sources, because this is absolutely fascinating. Anyway, the game, of course, then after 6 delays would be releasing. It no longer had separate multiplayer modes. It was no longer a historically accurate game where now it has sea monsters.
Okay.
I'm not against sea monsters.
Yeah, I'm okay with sea monsters. That's fine. I don't give a shit about it being historically accurate.
Quite a lot of concessions were made on the whole sort of on-foot social / hub areas,
That's a little worse.
and other things.
Hey, that I do have a problem with because it's player interaction.
So this is a game that was never supposed to be Black Flag.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, It's definitely not Black Flag. Mom, can we have Black Flag? No, we have Black Flag at home. Black Flag at home.
For good or ill. But what essentially is now is a actiony or more arcadey, like in the past piracy World of Warships that has basically captured the hearts of just about nobody.
We're talking, yeah.
But ultimately, what is it? Well, it's a decade of development from a large team, and that means your boy, Yves Guillemot, is kind of right.
We're talking about Skull and Bones.
It is a quadruple A game. It's just a bit shit. But in terms of timeline, I mean, yeah.
You can put as many A's on it as you want. Took you 10 years, it's still garbage.
Someone's pumping out a AAA game in 4 years, and you're taking 10, man. Sure thing. You call it quadruple A, but
they pumped out a AAA game in 4 years. You pumped out a quadruple A game in 10. Somehow worse.
buddy, I'm just not going to think that that's a good thing. All right, so quadruple A then, what the hell does that even mean? Well, first we've got to understand what AAA means, and that actually comes from the world of big fine.
Okay, all right, there we go. Okay. There's no defined parameters for it, but as the price goes up, you just add more A's. Every $10 is another A.
Finance, because yeah, you know, obviously, right, the more, you know, the more money, the more safety that goes into a game, the better it will be. No, if you've ever heard of junk bonds be talked about, well, a AAA rated bond is like the opposite of a junk bond. The idea is, you know, if you have if you're getting a AAA bond, the point there is that that is a safe bet. Your money's not going to go kaput. You know, AAA, good credit rating, happy. Now,
that's usually
that's
what
from
it means,
AAA to triple B. So that's sort of the original sort of verbiage that AAA.
Baldur's Gate 3, no A's. Didn't even get probably a quadruple C game.
It comes from. Where it applies to video games actually comes from a early 2000s, late 90s account of a sales manager at a store telling staff about a you know, the next sort of big hit game. Here it is. I had played other games made by the same dev team, and they weren't that great. He said it would be a hit because, well, quote, because it's triple.
What is Pen A? Bro, you guys gotta learn how to... If $60 is triple A, $70 is quadruple A, it's like I'm teaching it to my students all over again, bro. I don't even know how to do. If how many is pentuple A?
Play, and then he showed
Honors math student.
me the sheet. Beside each game was a quality ranking written by the distributor. They were letter ranks that the distributor used to help retailers with their game orders. There were A games, B games, and AAA games. Magically, no game ranked below a B. So a lot of that same stuff
Because no one wants to call their content garbage.
the bond market actually was applying here. And that's because, well, what are you doing in this instance as a distributor or whatever? Well, you've got to make sure that your clients are purchasing a reasonable number of games. So you have a bit of a rating system like, hey, this is, for everything that we know, this is a AAA rated game, you guys should buy it. So originally, AAA was basically just saying this is a big budget game, pretty safe bet, a lot of people will be going into your store to buy that game. And obviously this is before
Yeah, but that's when games were good,
we're really
though.
dealing with digital games, right? Obviously it's digital, but you're getting in a physical disc. So it came from that, and then it was basically
When was the last time you guys went to the store to buy a game? I was probably a teenager.
used as a marketing thing to say,
Oh
hey
my
gamers,
God.
this is a AAA game.
To be clear, those releases were some of the most memorable in history. Waiting in line, like sleeping overnight outside. Oh, dude, it's so good.
So you knew if it was
The
a
hype,
AAA
man.
game, it would be a certain level of quality. And when we then move to quadruple A, well, what that's basically saying is, hey, this is a bigger game, a higher budget. This is the biggest thing ever. But of course, the sort of the truth here is that's a complete load of bollocks from the past. And indeed, if we think back to the past and think of great AAA games we played, well, those are only the ones that we remember. We don't remember all of the AAA games that
True.
sucked back in the day. So the
True.
point basically here is
I remember Superman 64, bro.
AAA just gets turned into a marketing thing, right?
I
To
don't know if
basically
AAA
try to
necessarily-
sell the safety
Like-
in a game so that we can invest
I don't know if AAA necessarily existed back then, but man, that game was introduced as like a super good game.
in that game. And, I do think that this parallel to sort of investing language is really powerful and useful here. Think about how players think about games. It's about investing your time. Investing your time into this esport versus that esport.
GTA 5, I want you to stop and consider for a moment what GTA 6's monetization is going to look like. They're going to charge you $100 for that game, and they're going to have cosmetics in game you can buy too. Calling it right now.
Because you only have
I don't think it'll have pay to win though.
so much time and you want to maybe be Diamond League in one of them. Or indeed, in mobile games, players investing in their total account value. It's actually,
EA Sports enjoyers still buy games that way. That's right. When the three of you get together for your yearly convention, you can talk about all your discs and CDs that you have to put into your CD-ROM drive.
well, not exactly what was intended for. I actually think it's a pretty powerful way to talk about games. Of course, the point though, is what makes this quadruple A versus, say, an Enshrouded or a Pal World or a Helldivers? Because the only thing that matters to a customer is do they
GTA 6 will 100% be pay to win. Okay, but it'll have cosmetics and shit in there too. Okay, so all right. If you guys insist that it'll be pay to win, then sure.
log in, have it, have
But like even still, it's gonna be $100, and it's gonna be pay to win, and it's gonna be in-game cosmetics that you can buy. Like
have it, and just play it and have fun. Where ultimately,
it's if you think that this monetization is bad, it's getting worse.
three of those game examples are significantly more just fun and sort of feeling like a safe bet to people than this quadruple A game would be. And of course, across the industry, we've seen quadruple A falling to pieces. Do you remember with the Initiative? The Initiative was the quadruple A studio founded by Microsoft. Who knows? Maybe it was always supposed to make the big system seller that maybe for the next generation of Xboxes will get them console dominance. But obviously, we then see those reports from the Initiative. It's going nowhere fast, high staff attrition, and then they basically end up with this working relationship.
As much as half of the development team have quit in the past year, Initiative management says it's confident in its team. You mean the team that's left?
With Crystal Dynamics.
All 2 of them.
So Crystal Dynamics would actually be doing a whole bunch of the game stuff. And you're like, cool, so what the hell is the Initiative anyway? Of course, there's Ubisoft's other AAA game, Beyond Good and Evil 2. Where's that? I don't know. I don't know. Do you know where it is? I don't even know if Yves Guillemot knows where it is. I don't think anyone knows where it is. So there you go. AAA, load of bollocks. Although, I suppose that technically, you know, you could see it as being in line with the amount of time, effort, etc. that was poured into this game. I think our big lesson here, though, is sometimes if something ain't right, kill it. And as much as, you know, I can look at the Singaporean government...
No. Okay, yeah, he's talking about Ubisoft. Guys, just don't buy it. Like, they're gonna keep increasing prices until consumers actually just stop buying stuff, and then that's where the line is. They haven't even found the line yet. That's the funny thing, is that everyone's bitching about how it's $70, there's pay to win in the game, and all this monetization crap, and it's a bad game. You paid it, and you will continue paying this stuff. Yeah, at a certain point, you just have to learn how to not pay the money, and then the prices will normalize, right? But like, until then, the price is just going to keep going up.
Thing.
That what they just learned is that they can charge $70 for a game everybody will buy.
Right, lads. Okay, so you guys, you know, you want to foster a games industry. Great. You know, that's cool. From everything I understand, you know, they've got great universities, great all that stuff. Fair play. But if you're doing it to the point where, you know, basically a bunch of pencil pushers are trying to keep a project going when it doesn't make, in the grander sense, much economic sense, well, that's bad for Ubisoft, bad for developers, bad for customers, bad for Singapore. It's bad for everyone. Very bizarre. I think that's our message. So that's it for me today. Look, I would appreciate it if you click the subscribe button. It actually does. Guys,
this is Bellular News. They do all the investigating that we don't want to so that they can give it to us straight. Go give him a sub. Go give him a like on the video. He's an absolute specimen. I love his channel. Yeah, that's really discouraging. I'm just gonna scroll through this. Hey, intro looks good. This looks... What am I in the log ride at fucking Disney World? Holy shit. Okay. What the f? Why is this dude just walking around? This bitch is laying on her back. This dude's just walking around having a stroll. What are we doing right now? Get up!
Cool.
See, this looks really cool. What? Wait, what happened to the boat? Like, oh, his boat's just small. Wait, it's not sailing right. Wait, why the f is the... Alright, so you have sea shanties, okay. Can you just get off and walk on the shore? Nope.
What is this location?
It's a load screen.
Just want to discover it. Oh, it's an outpost. So now we should be able to fast travel up here.
And you can fast travel? I thought the whole point of this game was to sail around. Why the fuck would you enable fast traveling? Respectfully. Like, that makes the world feel way less, like, big.
This thing is a destructive force, man.
Wind doesn't exist? What do you mean wind doesn't exist?
Now.
You mean you don't actually have to sail the boat and like turn the sails and stuff?
Pretty tough, but...
Okay. This looks like there's sea combat. I do not like that there's a health bar. I liked it when in Sea of Thieves where you could tell that their ship was just like a board. You know what I mean? Like, it's like Jack Sparrow like sailing into like he's standing on the crow's nest and the ship is just going down. Okay, I know I won. Like, okay, cool effect. Okay, that was way less. I thought that the cannons were gonna do way more. I don't like that you can fire from the helm. I really like that what you have to go get on the cannon and let the ship sail itself. Like, I don't know. All right, yeah. I like having like stuff to do on board the boat is important to making it feel like an actual sea experience. Having to sail the boat is half the atmosphere of the game. Like, okay, yeah, adjust the front sail, adjust the back sail, put them part way up, put them part way down. Have to fire the cannons. Oh, we're out of cannonballs. We got to go below deck.
Like quick deaths, you know,
No, I never played
like a
Blackwave.
game where you die, there really isn't, you're not going to really lose much. Too far up north here in this ring.
Yeah, bro, this is kind of rough, bro. Is there any other? Here we go. Season 1 gameplay trailer.
Prepare to clash, leading up to an epic showdown. Your reputation, thwarting the pests, rise to power.
And you'll notice there's no combat. There's no like melee hand-to-hand
Prove
combat.
your worth and reap rewards as you the reveals the from the gunner master. You can acquire the
I suppose it's a good game for people that just want to sail around and blast the shit out of people with cannons. But like, it's about ship combat. That is ship combat. You understand that me jumping onto their ship and PvPing them will allow my gunners to do damage to their ship? That is ship combat. Melee combat, it's all to try to bring down their ship. It's dropping their anchor, sabotaging them. Like, that's all ship combat. No, that's hand-to-hand combat. Hand-to-hand combat is part of ship combat, dude. Like, that's part of the combat. Like, that's part of it. It's like part of being a pirate.
time.
It's like going in and trying to loot them. Or maybe you just got in, got their loot, and then jumped out, and then sailed away. You know what I mean? Like, that's cool
now,
too.
Captain. Hoist your sails, load your cannons, and plunge into all-out naval mayhem as you enter the raging tides of Skull and Bones.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'll look up more reviews on it, but it doesn't look very good.